The wrestling world just exploded with news that nobody saw coming, and honestly this might be the most shocking development in WWE history, because Roman Reigns and Brock Lesnar are about to crash Wargames and turn everything we thought we knew completely upside down. If you're a fan of absolute chaos and unpredictable mayhem, then you need to stick around, because what's about to unfold is going to redefine professional wrestling as we know it. And if you haven't already smashed that subscribe button, now is the perfect time, because you don't want to miss a single second of the insanity that's coming your way. Let me paint you a picture of what just went down, because this situation started brewing when both Roman Reigns and Brock Lesnar showed up at WWE headquarters completely unannounced and demanded a meeting with upper management that lasted over 3 hours. Nobody knew what was happening behind those closed doors, but sources inside the building said you could hear voices getting louder and furniture moving around, and when those doors finally opened, both superstars walked out with smirks on their faces that told everyone something massive just got approved. The wrestling community immediately started buzzing with speculation, but nothing could have prepared anyone for what was actually about to happen. Wargames was supposed to be set in stone with teams already finalized and strategies already mapped out, but now everything has been thrown into complete disarray. The original lineups that everyone spent weeks analyzing and predicting are essentially meaningless now, because when you inject Roman Reigns and Brock Lesnar into any situation, you might as well throw all the rulebooks out the window. These two competitors have a history that spans over a decade, filled with brutal matches and intense rivalries and personal animosity that never really went away, no matter how many times they faced each other in the ring. Roman Reigns has been on an absolute tear lately, reminding everyone why he's called the Tribal Chief and why his presence alone can shift the entire landscape of professional wrestling. His dominance hasn't been questioned by anyone who watches this sport regularly, and his ability to control a match from bell to bell is something that only a handful of wrestlers in history have ever been able to accomplish. When Roman walks into a building, the entire atmosphere changes, because everyone knows that things are about to get serious and that whatever happens next will have consequences that ripple through the entire roster for months to come. Brock Lesnar, on the other hand, is the human equivalent of a natural disaster waiting to happen, because when he decides he wants to destroy something, nothing and nobody can stand in his way. The Beast incarnate has proven time and time again that he doesn't care about politics or storylines or who management wants to push, because he does whatever he wants whenever he wants, and somehow he always gets away with it. His physical presence is intimidating enough, but when you combine it with his legitimate fighting background and his willingness to push every boundary imaginable, you get a competitor who operates on a completely different level from everyone else. Now imagine both of these forces colliding at Wargames in a match structure that's already designed to be absolute pandemonium. The steel cage surrounding two rings creates an environment where escape is impossible, and where the action can spill into every corner simultaneously, and where alliances mean everything until they mean nothing. Wargames has a reputation for being one of the most brutal match types in wrestling history, and adding Roman Reigns and Brock Lesnar into that equation is like pouring gasoline on a fire that was already burning out of control. The question everyone keeps asking is, which teams are they joining, because that detail hasn't been revealed yet, and the speculation is driving the wrestling community absolutely insane. Some people think Roman and Brock might actually be on the same team, which would create the most dominant faction anyone has ever seen and would basically guarantee victory for whichever side they choose. Other people believe they're going to be on opposite teams, which would set up another chapter in their legendary rivalry and would give us moments that people will be talking about for decades. But here's where things get really interesting, because there's a third possibility that nobody seems to be considering seriously enough. What if Roman Reigns and Brock Lesnar aren't joining either of the existing teams, but instead they're forming their own unit that crashes Wargames from the outside and attacks everyone indiscriminately until they're the only ones left standing? This scenario would be absolute chaos in the truest sense of the word, because it would mean that every single competitor in that match would have to deal with two of the most dangerous athletes in WWE history hunting them down simultaneously. The training footage that leaked online yesterday showed both Roman and Brock working out together in the same facility, which immediately sent shockwaves through social media, because these two have never been known to be friendly with each other. They were doing heavy lifting sessions and practicing power moves and running through scenarios that looked specifically designed for a cage environment. One clip showed Roman hitting his Superman punch on a heavy bag, while Brock was in the background launching someone across the ring with a German suplex, and the coordination between them suggested they've been preparing for this moment for quite some time. Backstage interviews with other superstars have revealed that many wrestlers are genuinely concerned about what's about to happen, because when Roman Reigns and Brock Lesnar get involved in anything, the injury rate tends to spike dramatically. These aren't performers who pull their punches or work a safe style for the benefit of their opponents, and Wargames is already a match where accidents happen frequently even under normal circumstances. Adding two competitors who thrive on physicality and intensity into that mix creates a situation where anything could happen and where careers could genuinely be altered in a matter of seconds. The fans are split right down the middle on how they feel about this development, because on one hand everyone wants to see the biggest stars involved in the biggest matches, but on the other hand there's legitimate concern that Roman and Brock might overshadow everyone else who worked hard to earn their spots in Wargames. Some younger talent has been vocal on social media about feeling like their opportunity is being taken away, while veterans who have shared the ring with both superstars have warned everyone that they should be careful what they wish for, because working with Roman and Brock means getting beaten up for real. The promotional material that WWE started releasing shows Roman Reigns and Brock Lesnar standing in front of the Wargames cage with their arms crossed, and that image alone has generated millions of impressions across every social media platform. The tagline they're using says something like "When Titans collide, empires fall," and while that might sound like typical wrestling hyperbole, there's a sense that this time it might actually be accurate. The video packages are emphasizing the destruction these two have caused throughout their careers and reminding everyone of the classic matches they've had against each other, including WrestleMania encounters that became instant classics. What makes this situation even more complicated is that neither Roman Reigns nor Brock Lesnar has cut a proper promo explaining their motivations yet. They both stayed completely silent while the wrestling world loses its collective mind trying to figure out what their endgame is. This silence is strategic because it keeps everyone guessing and it builds anticipation to levels that normal storyline progression could never achieve. When they finally do speak and explain why they're inserting themselves into Wargames, the reasons better be good because expectations are now through the roof. The financial implications of this move are staggering because ticket sales for the event have skyrocketed since the announcement, and social media engagement has multiplied by factors that analysts didn't think were possible. WWE's stock price even saw a bump when news broke, which shows that investors believe this is going to be a massive draw that brings in viewers who might not normally watch professional wrestling. The mainstream sports media has picked up the story too, with major outlets running segments about how Roman Reigns and Brock Lesnar are reshaping the wrestling landscape yet again. Behind the scenes, there are reports of creative team meetings that have stretched into the early morning hours as writers try to figure out how to book this match in a way that makes sense and satisfies everyone involved. The original Wargames plans have been completely scrapped and new scenarios are being pitched constantly, with some ideas being approved and then rejected hours later. The pressure on the creative team is immense because they know that if they mess this up, the backlash will be severe and the opportunity cost will be enormous. Training camp footage continues to leak showing both Roman and Brock pushing themselves harder than they have in years. Roman was spotted doing cardio sessions at times when he'd normally be resting, which suggests he's taking this match extremely seriously and wants to be in the best shape of his life. Brock was seen working with his wrestling coach on new variations of suplexes specifically designed for the cage environment, which means he's not just relying on his natural athleticism but is actually preparing strategically for what's coming. The psychological warfare has already begun, even though the match is still weeks away, because both competitors have been showing up at events where they're not scheduled just to remind everyone of their presence. Roman appeared at a house show last week and simply stood at the entrance ramp for 10 minutes without saying a word before walking back through the curtain. Brock showed up at a press conference that had nothing to do with him and sat in the front row staring at the stage until everyone became so uncomfortable that they ended early. These mind games are classic tactics from both competitors, and they're clearly trying to get inside everyone's heads before the actual physical confrontation begins. The betting odds for Wargames have become completely unpredictable now because bookmakers don't know how to factor in the Roman Reigns and Brock Lesnar variables. Some betting sites have temporarily suspended Wargames wagers until more information becomes available about which teams they're joining. The smart money seems to be going toward whatever scenario involves Roman and Brock being on the same team, because the idea of betting against both of them simultaneously seems foolish to most gamblers. Historical analysis shows that whenever Roman Reigns and Brock Lesnar have been involved in multi-person matches, the dynamics completely change because both competitors demand attention and both tend to eliminate multiple opponents quickly. Their offense is so devastating that normal tag team psychology doesn't apply when they're in the ring. Traditional strategies about wearing down opponents over time become irrelevant because Roman and Brock can end matches with single moves if they connect properly. The merchandise sales have gone through the roof, with new Roman Reigns and Brock Lesnar Wargames t-shirts selling out within hours of becoming available. Collectors are scrambling to get their hands on limited edition items because they sense that this is going to be a historic moment that they'll want memorabilia from. The secondary market for tickets has become completely insane, with prices reaching levels typically reserved for WrestleMania main events. Veteran wrestlers who have been in Wargames matches before have started giving interviews warning everyone about how brutal the environment is. They talk about the steel cage floors that offer no give when you land on them, and the tight spaces between the rings where bodies get trapped, and the sheer exhaustion that sets in when you're trying to fight multiple opponents in an enclosed space. Now multiply that brutality by the presence of Roman Reigns and Brock Lesnar, who don't believe in working a slow pace or building to spots gradually. The medical staff has reportedly increased their presence for the event, with additional doctors and trainers being brought in specifically because of the Roman and Brock factor. There's genuine concern that the standard medical protocols won't be sufficient for a match of this magnitude. Equipment has been upgraded and emergency procedures have been reviewed multiple times to ensure that if something goes wrong, the response will be immediate and comprehensive. Social media has become an absolute frenzy, with wrestling fans debating every possible scenario and creating fantasy booking threads that stretch for hundreds of posts. Podcasters are dedicating entire episodes to analyzing what this means for the future of WWE and whether this sets a precedent for other major stars to insert themselves into matches after teams have already been announced. The discourse has gotten heated at times, with different factions of fans arguing passionately about whether this is good for the wrestling business or whether it undermines the younger talent who need opportunities to shine. The international wrestling community has also taken notice, with promotions in other countries discussing how WWE continues to create moments that capture global attention. This isn't just a story that American wrestling fans care about, because Roman Reigns and Brock Lesnar have international recognition that transcends normal wrestling fandom. Their names carry weight in mainstream sports conversations, which means this Wargames match has the potential to attract viewers who might not have watched wrestling in years. As we get closer to the actual event, the tension continues to build, and every new piece of information that leaks out gets dissected by thousands of fans trying to piece together what's really going to happen. The beauty of this situation is that nobody actually knows, because even people who usually have inside information are admitting that plans keep changing and that Roman and Brock have enough influence to essentially write their own storylines. This unpredictability is both exciting and terrifying, because it means that when Wargames finally happens, absolutely anything could occur, and whatever does happen will be talked about for years to come as one of those defining moments that shaped an entire era of professional wrestling. Make sure you hit that subscribe button so you never miss any of the latest updates, because this story is far from over, and what happens next could change everything we think we know about WWE.